This is kind of going back to the Jacobite period.
Okay.
And we've actually had it pop up a few times on here about them wearing different tartans. Like the waistcoat may be this way, or the sleeve waistcoat might be this way or that way. So how is that different than what Rocky's saying as far as wearing multiple different... It's all kind of... They're viewing it kind of the same.
Yeah. The Jacobites would wear different tartans top and bottom, or different tartans on the outfit, and kind of mishmash it all together, because that was previous in the evolution of tartans as a symbol of the clan, of a symbol of a particular family, of how it is perceived now. You're taking a current day perception with current day traditions going back 100, 150 years, or 200 years, whatever it is, to something several hundred years ago. There's not a direct parallel. Right. It's evolved over time. So, yeah, period.
Yeah, you can basically blame the stuffy Victorians for codifying everything, because that's what they did, and limiting our options. The Highlanders prior to the 17th century, or through the 17th century, prior to the prescriptions, let's say, you wore what you had, you enjoyed what you had, and if you had more than one tartan because you had access to the fabric, then what the hell? You know, you just had it and you enjoyed it. They didn't attach the same symbolism to the tartan the way we do now.
It was just a piece of clothing. It was just a piece of cloth.
Yeah.
It was a practical piece of cloth. It was something that they bought because they liked the pattern, or out of the three that particular mill in that region had woven, that's the one that they liked. And then they bought the other one for a jacket or whatever. It's what they had. It wasn't the obsession with clothes that we have, where we have entire closets full of clothes. They had a few things.
Right. And they could be peacocky too. Don't think that they weren't like fashion conscious. They just they had a different perception of it. And if you had a kilt that was in a red tartan because that's what your wife had woven for you a few winters back, and then you went to market one summer and somebody was selling, a jacket or something, and it happened to be in a green tartan, you're like, that looks like a good jacket. How much do you want for it?
Or a brown tweed, or
yeah. So the perception was different for them. The other thing is to remember, I always like to bring this up, they were not shy about bright colors. We always have this perception that somehow color was invented in the 19th or 20th century, and prior to that, everything was brown and drab and gray and washed out, how can you tell he's a king? Because it hasn't got all over him.
Yep.
That's not how it was. They loved their bright colors, so you will definitely see them playing around with that and mixing and matching colors and stuff like that. Clothing you didn't have that much clothing, so you had as much fun with it as you could with what you did have. But yeah, it was definitely like we were saying earlier, it's the advent of the perception of a clan and tartan as part of your heraldic display, in a sense, very loose sense, that made everything codified.
And it evolved over time. I'm going to point out a couple things. One, it didn't have the meaning that we ascribe to it. Like, if you take everything out of it, it's, this is just a piece of cloth. It is our intentions that put meaning into it, that ascribe it meaning. And I'll also give you another parallel. So that didn't happen until 1822, when things started, rolling with the king. And then fast forward to tartan designs being registered back in the 1800s versus tartan designs being registered now. Back then, the MacDonald tartan did not have the meaning of, well, the green is for the hills of Glencoe, and the blue is for the water, and the red is for the blood of those. No, that was just the pattern. It was optically pleasing to the person in power who said, I like that one, that's what we're doing. Now, starting with 1953, the Nova Scotia tartan, or somewhere around then, that's the earliest example I can find, there's meaning ascribed to the... Ascribed, I'm using the right word, right?
Yeah, ascribed.
Yeah, ascribed to the colors in the tartan was 1953, Nova Scotia, where they said the green is for the hills and the blue is for the water and whatever else. And now, every single tartan that comes through the register They have some
Right.
kind of
We
meaning.
feel like we have to now.
It is expected now, where it wasn't back then.
Yeah.
Now, when something comes through with no meaning, because I get the emails from the Tartan Register and I open them up, and when something comes through without a meaning, which is not often, it's kind of like, what's wrong with these people? But you catch yourself and like, well, it's just a design to, this corporate entity that designed a tartan. It doesn't match their corporate logo, whatever.
Right.
You don't need meaning, but now it's kind of expected. So that's evolved over time as well. And it is a living, breathing thing. Tartan and Highland wear really started, back in the mists of time. But there are phases that it's kind of gone through, and it's still a fashion thing. It moves like molasses in January, like a behemoth. It does not get steered easily. The traditions, for something to become a tradition in Highland wear, takes much longer for it to become a tradition through wanton usage. But it will evolve over time still. It's not a static thing that has never evolved. It just evolves extremely slowly. Is that a fair point?
Yes.
Very good.
Quick follow-up. How did they tell whose side was somebody on in the battlefield then?
Great question, Eric.
Going back to the Highlanders, it was basically came down to your cockade or your the herbal plant emblem of your clan, if anything. It's like, everybody put a piece of heather in your hat today. Okay. Everybody put some myrtle in your hat today. Okay. That's how we'll know who's who. It was basically very simple, like shirts versus skins kind of a thing. That was what they used. You did not identify your guys from the other guys by the tartan they were wearing.
Not by their blue face paint or not blue face paint, or as the
freedom
having worn the Braveheart tartan or not. Was Mel Gibson in front of your group or
no, that's no. Sorry,
some minor inaccuracies.
slight.
Do your homework, kids.